I'm very happy to have with us today the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, in-house. Thank you for coming, just so that you can make your case, or how should I call it, rationalize what is going on here. Now, folks, you know that I am not an economist by any stretch of the imagination, nor a chartered accountant like the great Claude V. Griffith or the late Jeff Stewart. So when it comes to the figures and the numbers and the economics, let's get it from somebody who's supposed to know what they're talking about. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing? Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. What are we talking about today?
We talk
yesterday.
Just please, because I didn't want to. The main reason for me was that I wanted to. You have a statement there. The government and the surrogates are jumping all over that, and it's a difficult argument to make because two things. One, the economy does not feel like it's doing well. At least that's my anecdotal evidence. And then on top of that, I cannot understand the IMF breakdowns of everything. I do not pretend. So I saw this same IMF report, but then on the 17th of this month, I saw an updated IMF report which said the recovery in Latin America and the Caribbean has lost momentum. Economic recovery in Latin America and the Caribbean has stalled amid escalating trade tensions, higher financial conditions, and volatile commodity markets, according to the IMF's latest regional update. Now, this regional update was literally, and I want to show it on screen here, this regional update was from, last week, Thursday, right? So if I can show this on screen, this regional update is the IMF's recovery in Latin America. So it does not exactly paint the same picture as the report that is being quoted from. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Chris, first of all, I will not do what was done to us when we were in government. I fully respect the IMF, and I have no issues with what the IMF says. And I will not, when we were in government, and anytime the IMF says anything good, the EDIP jumped on us and said that wasn't the IMF, even implied that we were given wrong information. Okay. Fake news was not the style as yet. Now, okay. But it's very dangerous when people make comments on the economy without stating the facts. So I've come here today with all the facts. Yeah. Right? I've come with a copy of the IMF report.
That is not this
That's
one.
The report, no. Because, you see, the reports are at a point in time. Okay. So that way is a revised report. That's a revised summary. So I'm coming to the actual report.
Okay, so this revised summary, why would you want to not go by this one of October? Let me make sure I show up the date. Of October 17th, recovery in Latin America and the Caribbean has lost momentum.
Because, you see, that one would be basically speculation.
Why?
Because they're saying that based on the increased fuel prices and tightening of the markets and the fact that they're going to be, trade is not going to be as free as it was before, there may be some issues. But I want to go on what the government is talking about the growth. It's very important we do the growth aspect of the other IMF report. So I've brought the entire IMF report. It's Article 2018 Article 4 consultation. Okay, so this is there for everybody to see, and it's public knowledge. You can get it on the
Okay, so I got it. I have it here, and that is this one. So folks, not to get confused, this one is of June 20th.
That's it.
2018.
For the last year, for 2017.
Right, but then more importantly, it deals specifically with St. Lucia.
Yes.
Right, so IMF Executive Board concludes 2018 Article 4 consultation with St. Lucia, June 20th, 2018. This is the one that everybody's referring to in terms of, as the growth. And right at the bottom, you can see the figures. Let me bring that down. And then you start to see the countries. Wait, no, there we go. Percentages for countries and so on. Right, GDP growth, St. Lucia. Right. So let me, 2014, 15, 16, 18, 19.
Free 2017, 3%, and you see that's what's in the front page, and 2018, 3.5, 29, 3.7.
Right.
So what the IMF is saying is that next year they are revising the 3.5.
So next year they are revising the 3.5.
And the 3.7, they revise it based on the situation that they spoke of.
But let's show it on screen again for about 10 seconds so people can see output and prices, real GDP at market prices. 2017, 3.0.
3%,
3%,
2018, 3.5,
3.5.
20, 3.7. And what you read a while ago is revising the 3.5 and 3.7.
Okay. So put that into context for me.
So let's deal with the 3.7.
Okay, let's deal with the 3.7.
No, with the 3%.
The 3%,
for
sorry,
2017. Yeah.
Okay. So
now, as I told you, I'm just going to be, I know a little bit about the subject. I won't call myself, as people say, an economist.
Okay.
I mean, I left school too long ago. So I know a little bit about the subject, right? I wouldn't boast and make this kind of pronouncements. So we're going to deal purely with the facts.
okay.
Today I'm dealing with the facts.
Okay.
Good. Now, IMF report. Now, as I said, I have absolutely no issues with the IMF. No issues. So let us go back a little history. You heard the minister say that they inherited an economy that was in problems, etc. Okay.
Right.
Now, we're not going back to what we inherited in 2011. If you go back to the IMF report and you look at the figures, you'll see the deficits that we inherited in 2011 were nearly 7%.
Okay.
7-8% of deficit, right? Barbados was that. I'm going to go to Barbados in a while. Now, here is the government's own report.
And that is
Fiscal and structural reforms in St. Lucia.
right.
And that's a November 2016 document.
Okay, so folks, let's go to screen because I made sure to get that before we started. Let's show that so everybody can see. And who produces this report?
That was if you read it, you'll see it was mandated by the government of St. Lucia to the Caribbean Development Bank.
So the Caribbean Development
Prepared
Bank
it for St. Lucia.
prepared it for St. Lucia.
On
and it
the
was
instruction of the new government in November 2016.
So November 2016,
That's about 3 or 4 months after
the Caribbean Development Bank in November 2016 did this report
Yes.
on behalf of this
The government
government.
of St. Lucia, yes.
This government. Okay.
And listen to the first page.
Okay, so I think I have the first page.
Can I get the first page?
Yeah.
Now, first of all, I want to tell you that, the first page,
Right, executive summary.
right. I want to tell you that throughout our government, when the government was in power, between 2011 and 2016, we always made the point that the economy is on the strain. You may recall
Yeah.
that. This is why there was the idea of cutting expenses and salaries, etc. You remember that?
Yes, you
Okay.
got licks for it.
For that,
too. Right.
Listen to the first page, the first line. Notwithstanding the improvement in fiscal performance in the past 4 years.
So
The
that-
past 4 years would be between 2016 backwards.
okay, to about 2012, 2011.
eh?
Okay.
That's the first line.
So let's show that on screen. So that means right here, notwithstanding, and you see it highlighted, folks. Let me try and make that even bigger. Notwithstanding the improvement in fiscal performance in the last 4 years. So that means that by this government's own report, it acknowledges a fiscal improvement, in the last
Their
4
own
years.
report. So the idea about the economy was in the, now you have to look at it in context, context of high oil prices. During that period, you
Yeah, I
may
can
recall
remember
that.
that, yeah.
That period, prices only went down after that. In context of what is happening, in context of the economy in the international economy had not improved as yet. Foreign direct investment was slow because of the problems, because we come from a serious recession
Right.
in the years prior. Now, so it has been improvement. Now, look at it in context too, and we're coming back to debt. And I want you to keep that word in mind, rebasing.
Rebasing figure. Okay.
Keep that word
Which
in
you will
mind.
have to explain
Yeah.
to the people in a while.
Good.
Okay.
So let's go. So you find that in 2016, the economy had already started to show signs of fiscal improvement.
Fair enough. As stated by their own report.
By the report.
Okay.
Fine. Good. Now, let us go now to the IMF report of 2017. GDP growth reached 3% in 2017, sustained by robust activity in several sectors.
So that's right here as we
Yeah.
go to screen, folks.
Favorable external conditions. Favorable external conditions. Very important.
I want to show that on screen right
Favorable external conditions coupled with hotel expansions and the additions of new flights, generated a strong recovery in tourism, with stopover arrivals rising by 11%.
Right.
Good? Fine. Now, let us look at what is meant now. If you look at the tourism figures now, up to August, the increase in tourism is not 4%.
What is it?
It's 3.7%.
Okay.
Still in silver arrivals. And you know, I said to you, today I want to even forget I am a politician.
That's going to be difficult for the audience, but go ahead.
And deal with it because, you see, everything I say is going to be backed factually.
Okay.
Good. Now, let us look at the room stock in St. Lucia in 2016. Okay?
Right.
In 16, and the room stock in 2017. And you'll see one variable.
Which is what?
The Royalton Hotel.
The Royalton. That's it.
456 new rooms that came available. And it's very important, Chris, because, you know, it's very important that we say these things. 456 rooms, new rooms from the Royalton Hotel, plus an airline.
That's true. Royalton comes with an airline.
Sunwin. So when you tell you about increasing airlines, and the Sunwin doesn't only bring people for the Royalton, they bring people for everywhere else.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes. Now, also, you had the hurricane, where the people would have gone, because Royalton has a hotel in St. Martin.
Right.
That hotel got completely destroyed. So they sent the people to St. Lucia. You didn't know that either.
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. Now, Royalton opened in February 2017.
Right.
Good. Royalton rolled out 456 new rooms.
Okay.
Let us suppose that double rooms at double occupancy and for 44 weeks, double occupancy and at 70%.
Okay.
And Royalton is full more than that, 70%. Right?
Okay.
That would have added 28,000 visitors to the Notion in the year.
Ah, okay.
So you see the increase?
So, okay.
And the total increase for the year, based on their own figures, the total increase for the year in tourism, and then I'm going to the Economic and Social Review.
Okay, I have that as well.
I didn't prepare that myself. The Economic and Social Review.
And let's show that on screen.
Yeah, and let's go into tourism.
2017, that is a state document, right? And we're going into tourism, public debt, financing.
Right. Private sector constructions.
Okay, I don't have that.
No, wait, hold on. What you have? You have tourism numbers. What you have? Tourism?
I have.
Let's get, because we want to go to the private sector, but you want to do tourism, right? But just take a bit. Just remember tourism.
Okay.
Let's remember.
All right, we can come on screen.
Private sector construction, page 23. Construction activity in the private sector centered mainly on hotel room stock expansion, particularly at 2 new properties. Completion works of phase 1 intensified at the 435-room Royalton St. Lucia Resort and Bar in the first quarter.
And that's all from the same 2017 Economic and Social
Review.
Okay, fair enough.
Construction work on the 115-room Harbour Club, which was temporarily halted in the last quarter of 2016, resumed with significant progress made towards completion in 2017.
So basically, you are saying that, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the growth that they're talking about is based on two hotel projects.
Basically. No, I'll be very honest with you. It also said that Windjammer constructed an additional 11 villas at Sugar Ties Beach. Renovation will take a number of hotels during the off-peak season, including Sanders Lodge and Sanders Settlement Spot. But the notable ones were these 2. Okay. Now, in 2016, the total tourism arrivals was $347,872.
Say that again. The total arrivals
in 2016 were 347,872.
347,
872. And again,
872.
if you don't believe me, go in the Social and Economic Review and you'll see it.
Okay.
You want me to find it for you?
No, I can see it from there.
Yeah, good. Now, this year, it was 386,127.
386,127.
127. A difference of 38,255.
Okay.
That's not even arithmetic.
That's cool.
It's right. Right. Now, and based on the figures we had for Royalton, leaving out Harbour Club, Royalton, at a 70% occupancy, for their 456 rooms, at 70%, double occupancy.
Right.
At 70% overall occupancy, and Royalton gets to more sometimes, would have brought in 28,000 people.
So wait, so you're saying Royalton, the visitor arrivals went from 347,000 to 386,000, an increase of about 38,000, and 28%
Came
of
from
that
Royalton.
can come from Royalton
Yes.
easily. And that's not including Harbour Club.
Nothing can have a club. So when I said that, and then the government did not build, but you may recall that when we gave incentives to Royalton, the opposition complained.
Yeah.
You remember that? They said we were building foreign workers, and then, I don't remember that.
Yes, I remember it clearly.
Good. Now, so I'm saying that then now, what is important is that there is a direct relationship between the increase in hotel rooms and increase in tourism arrivals.
True, okay. Because of the airline component
From Sunwind
from Sunwind, which is tied to...
and the new room that came on stock.
Okay.
So when I said that the increase is due to our policies, what I was saying is not our policies of attracting investment in the Royalton that caused the new rooms to come on stock.
Okay.
Plus favorable conditions, that's what caused the increase in growth.
Okay. Now, here's where you run into problems.
Yes.
You're in opposition, you're the leader of the opposition, and you can point to, for example, under the former administration, you were then Minister for Infrastructure, you had about 5 hotel projects. Royalton, you had Harbour Club, you have Range, you have Sabusha, and you had something that's supposed to go at Canals. The 2 that were in train and were pretty much finished by the time the election had come up, right, were Royalton was 3/4 of the way done, and Harbour Club was about 60% or they're done. Those were not stopped.
No.
Okay, so let me ask you a different question. If, by your projection, if those other 3 projects had come on, if, to put it simply, if the Prime Minister did not screw up and the Cabinet did not screw up Range, in terms of Sabusha as well, and Galaxy, but not Galaxy, but Canals, right? What do you think that would be this year's projections right now?
What would happen is these hotels would have been completed, but there would be an increase in construction activity.
Fair enough.
Now, if you have to look at what the impact that 456 rooms had, plus 110 at Harbour Club, you can imagine the impact that these 3 hotels would have had, plus the airport on construction activity. So in 2018, the year finishing, the growth, just the growth. We're going to come back to aspects of the growth, because, we shout about growth, which is good. We want to come back to aspects of growth. I want to tell you very quickly, the IMF report for Barbados said growth is estimated at 1.6% in 2016, Barbados.
Barbados is in the state that it's in there right now.
Growth. You know why?
Why? I don't understand.
Their fiscal is not in order.
Their fiscal is not in order? Explain that. No, see,
and that's why when these guys make these statements, and it was the honesty of our government when you tell the people that there was some sort, the country was coming out because you had to put our fiscal in. Let me tell you what the meaning of a fiscal. Fiscal, if I can put it in layman terms, I hope I can. You take a big loan and you build a big house. Right? Nice big house. Okay? But you have a nice big house, your value of your house is $6 million. Chris has a nice house by the sea, by the seaman, beautiful house. But you know what happened? Chris can't pay his light bill, He can't eat, and then he have problems. When he finish pay his debt, he can't eat, he can't pay his light bill. That's unsustainable.
Agreed.
That's, in layman words, terms what that means.
So right now, with Barbados, when you say Barbados is...
No, Chris. Not me say.
Okay.
Because they'll say, oh, Pierre. IMF report.
IMF report.
Not me say, no. I'm saying nothing I say today. Eh?
Okay.
So they don't want to attack me.
So no, because I want, in a sense, because this has to be a discourse, so let's, sometimes I see on Facebook, those are the logged on always say classes in session, but I'm not a teacher. Today, I want the teacher role here from you, because you have been a teacher, right? And in terms of that, how to explain to people how to process this. So then now comes, if in the fiscal and structural reforms, it basically credits, fiscal and structural reforms credits the SLP administration, and it's a UWP produced document through CDB. Then you have the Economic and Social Review, which is a state-produced document, which is also given credit for 2016, 2017, in terms of what was there. The problem that I have, and I think a lot of solutions have, is from what people like Ricole McDonald and Russell and all the surrogates, Rick Wayne and so on, are saying then, is that basically things are promising. You heard Andre and say, things are promising. My question is it does the anecdotal evidence matter?
And Chris, this is why I told you, I'm coming with the report.
Fair enough.
You made the point that it's difficult for people to think that a politician can only speak from a report.
Yeah.
I'm going to do today.
Okay.
Because I told you, I have no issue with the growth, No issue. And I told you where the growth stemmed from. And probably that is why you're not seeing people not feeding the growth on the ground.
So why are people not? Because it's only Royalton's rooms. Yes. So subtract Royalton's rooms.
And you see where you get back to.
Okay.
And what is the difference between 2016 and 2017? One variable. Room stock. Room stock from where? Royalton.
So.
And from where again? Sunwin.
So, but no, Nicole McDonald, the senior communication advisor, said not just tourism, but other things, other fiscal adjustments.
No. Now you're coming into things. And again, I'm very surprised when I see people do not deal with the facts. Here's the same IMF report. Recovering tourism with stopover arrivals rising by 11%.
Okay, let's show that on screen.
Agreed.
Recovery with stayover arrivals rising by 11%. That's just about 3 lines down in that paragraph.
Very good.
Right.
Because you had more room stock.
Right.
You bought in 456 rooms from Royalton and 110 from Harbour Club.
Okay.
Mainly. You got enough fruit from other places, but mainly.
Okay.
Right. That's very good. Now, you come further. It says youth employment remains high. We're not going there. Now,
that's at the bottom of that paragraph.
Yes. Now let us look at the issue now, and that is why in 2006 Barbados could still show, according to IMF report, 1.6% growth. Here's the issue, and that's what surprises me when I see people just going to attack people, call them destructive, etc., without coming to points. Let's go back to the same IMF report. Based on preliminary data, the fiscal stance deteriorated.
Wait, this is in the next. This is the next
right.
paragraph. Let's show that on screen.
Based
on the preliminary data, the fiscal stance deteriorated slightly in financial year 2017-2018.
Right. The overall fiscal deficit and public debt continued to rise.
Wait, that is in the next. As a result, the overall fiscal deficit and public debt continued to rise. Right. It's in the next line in that same paragraph.
Same paragraph. Right. Now, what we are saying is that in spite that 3% growth, which can be narrowed down to
hotel projects.
Basically, right? And an improvement in the whole economy that caused people to come to an ocean. Basically, that's what it is. Basically. Because that same thing says that agriculture declined.
Wait, where's that?
Yes, Chief. Good for it.
Where's that?
Agriculture suffered the lingering effects of Hurricane Matthew.
Okay, so we're back to this paragraph, including wholesale, but agriculture suffered the lingering effects of Hurricane Matthew.
I agree.
It's in the middle.
Now, I remember when you were in government, anytime agriculture, they used to blame Honorable Moses Shabatis. They never talk about drought. They never talk about Christmas stuff, nothing. Remember that?
Fair enough.
The agriculture, they never talk about the drought that we experienced. Never said so. So, but now the IMF talk about it, we are agreeing.
So same IMF report.
Yes.
Okay. So then.
Let's go now. Now, we going now, supported by large infrastructure investment, tourism-related FDI, and I told you already, it's two.
So that's in this paragraph.
The same. Don't come on the line. Eh?
Let's show this on screen. That's the middle of this paragraph
Right.
at the top of your screen, folks. So tourism-related FDI, GDP growth is expected to remain buoyant in the near term, supported by large infrastructure investment, tourism-related foreign direct investment, and continued tourist inflows driven by the global recovery and increased capacity.
And read the next line.
Okay. Downside risks.
Now you're in problems.
Downside risks are prevalent.
Issue. Stop there.
Explain that, please.
Downside risk means that what you see in there may be a mirage.
That's
Because the fiscal is not solid. And that is what we are doing in government. Getting the fiscal in order. But I explained to you what a fiscal is.
yes, you did, but then explain. Give me 3 examples.
Okay.
Of,
If the
fiscal
fiscal was in order, the government would be able to pay their bonds without going to NIC.
Okay, that's 1. Give me 2 more.
If the fiscal was not, the government would be able to open the hospital.
Okay, so then you did not open the hospital. They'll tell you didn't open it.
No, because we are getting the fiscal in order.
Fair enough.
Right?
So that's 2. Give me 1.
If the fiscal was in order, the government would have been able to pay its debts fluently. Just pay. It wouldn't be able to. The people would have owed the people. The contractors would have owed money. They would have owed them.
The ones that are at Treasury now, fighting to get their money for the school repairs, they would be able to be paid. So that's 3 examples of the fiscal not being in order, despite the.
If the fiscal was in order, they would not have been increasing more debt. They would have been a surplus. It's difficult. Now, listen to me. I don't want anybody to jump and say, "Oh, y'all were there, y'all didn't do it." We didn't do it because we said the fiscal was not in order. We always admitted that we had to improve the fiscal.
So give me an example of one structural adjustment that you all did into. So VAT was one structural adjustment.
To increase revenue, to put the fiscal in order.
Now, is it true what Stephenson King said, that it was a regional commitment, that even though it was lamentable, that it was something that you felt had to...
It was not very regional, and Stephenson King is right. He's right. Now, you may recall, and people seem to are forgetting that. Five to Stay Alive said they would eliminate VAT,
Yeah.
Now, we have to go further in the IMF report and see what the IMF is suggesting.
Key issues.
That's why I tell you, it is very important that we look at the document and people don't let people get confused.
Okay.
And I'm saying nobody can, I'm sure, no one can point to anything I've said, so that's political.
Okay.
Coming back to the facts.
So give me what the IMF is saying.
All right. Robust growth is supported by strong tourism FDI inflows and infrastructure investment. But the medium-term outlook presents significant challenges.
Okay.
Now that is on the key issues and staff report for the 2018 Article 4 consultation.
Okay.
The medium-term outlook presents significant challenges, reflecting increased spending. The fiscal position has weakened. The public debt remains well above the ECCU target and continues to rise.
There's a theory or feeling that when an economy is bad or when people are not doing well financially, that they don't care about debts. So that while the opposition laments the debts and so on, and Shasney is borrowing money trying to borrow money from the Taiwanese and borrowing money from here and there and this, that, and the other, it doesn't affect us. How does it affect us in real time?
But you just finished, but you just hit it there. What will happen? The country will run short of money.
So is that what you think is actually happening now?
Unless, and you know, I don't want you to say what I am saying, you know. I want to say what the report is saying. What I'm saying is, they say I'm a politician.
Fair enough.
I want to say what their medium-term outlook presents significant challenges. Reflecting increased spending. Now, as we go further into the report, here's what it says. Economic activity remains strong. That's the recent developments, right?
Right.
Real GDP grew by 3%, which is agreed. Several hotel expansions increased the room stock by about 10%. That's the point that's made to hotel, and the hotel expansion was the Rosen.
And that's on page.
And that's on in the recent development, page 4, in the recent development and outlook.
Okay.
So when I made the point that because of past policy, everybody jumps on me. That's a fact.
So
I'm not the one who said, look at where it is.
So then
In 2017, look at where it is.
let me ask you a different question.
Yes.
The Labour Party now will be famous for social programs and social safety nets, whether it's Nice Smiles, whether it's STEP, whether it is a lot of CVQ training that went on through NSDC, bursaries for the disabled first time ever, and so on. All these social programs are being gutted now.
Fiscal.
Right, but here's the thing. You said that when you were in government, you were trying to get your fiscal house in order, and you were trying to stay away from the IMF, but at the exact same time, you all had these social programs. So, is it possible to have these social programs sustained right now while you still take care of your fiscal house?
Then, because you must look at how you spend your money.
Okay.
We look at the cost and benefits of giving money to Ojo Labs.
Fair enough. I'm with you on that.
The cost and benefits of giving money to private sector people to go into business. The cost of giving money to Lockerbie for consultancy.
Okay.
That's how you use your money. Because you see, growth is almost like something that you can't touch in terms of your pocket. Because the poor man doesn't understand growth.
Explain that, because you get licks on that. The poor man doesn't understand.
No. If you cannot, listen to me, if you can't go to the hospital, you understand growth? If you cannot pay for your health care, do you understand growth? If you have, when you're sick, you have to have a piece of paper going around to ask for money for health care, do you understand growth?
So then you will not
if
understand.
If you must have barbecue, you understand growth? So if it said, listen to me, the economy grew by 10%, double-digit growth. And then you go to you have to spend 20 hours at the emergency ward. You understand growth?
So then let me put it to you differently then.
Yes.
Right now, I think the Labour Party, when it came out in the last 2 years, 2015 and 2016, we're talking about growth. Stephenson King had a very good line. They would come and say, anytime they tell you the economy is good, push your hand in your pocket.
Yes, he is right.
Right? But here's the point. An election was won on that, and an election was lost on that. So politically there now, do you think that it might have, I'm being the devil's advocate in that, do you think that the smarter thing to do was to say, just not say anything and let the fellas take their plot, telling people things are good and things are not good?
That's what we know.
But
I mean, I heard the minister talk about small businesses closing down. I mean,
when you were in government?
Yes, but what about now?
Well, I mean, I guess.
You think the vendors understand the increasing tourism numbers? Talk to them. Talk to the vendors. Take a run by the vendors arcade and ask the vendors if they felt tourism numbers increased 2017.
Well, as a matter of fact, we did. Choice News did actually go out and get a vox populi, as in going and get some street vibes. So I'd like to show that now as we go into break and when we come back. But first, I want to get people's input into what they thought of economic growth, or the economic growth that the IMF has spoken about.
One, it is not doing well at all. Things are very hard. Even food expensive, salaries not increasing, and things like that. So we need an increase of salary. We need them to bring the food, the prices of the food down in the supermarket.
Different people engage in different activities, right? So as a consequence of that, you'll find that it will affect people differently, right? They have some people who are employed by the government. They will not feel any changes. Whether it goes up or down, they'll just get their salary every month, right? If you're working for yourself, right, depending on what kind of business which really affects you, it could be either good or bad, right? If you're in real estate, that's like what I'm in, you find that things are slowly picking up. I see the signs of that, right, immediately. But if you're in something else, if you're in construction, you would feel immediate effects of that.
No, not really.
No, it doesn't look well at all.
Yes, in the south, construction is booming up a little bit in the south.
No man, I see nothing growing. The country still the same way. The rich and fully people, but we're smart. The economic still a kind of way low. Not only in St. Lucia, you know, but all over the world. But it's true, it's a kind of way slow because I thought things will pick up this month, but it look like the economic still kind of low. So nothing is running in the country. They have to improve the speech and what they're saying. If they say something right, we're supposed to see the economic growing. People will be working, money will be flowing. You understand? That's what the economic is about.
I haven't seen any improvement of that because things are still the same way. Nothing shifting, nothing moving, nothing going any further. Because everybody's crying. If the economy is floating, everybody should be in a better level. But everybody's crying. So the whole nation is crying. It's in crisis.
That is the question people are asking. What is next? What is next? Very soon, I will be going to Parliament to move a vote of no confidence in the government of Alan Chasney. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Will you join us when we move in the vote of no confidence? Do you agree with that? Do you agree that Chasney must go?
A lot of things are going on right now in this country that is showing how backward we really are because we're still acting like colonials. Independent councils, independent bodies, and so on do not exist. The Prime Minister is monarch of everything he surveys. The police are afraid of the Prime Minister. Ministers of government in the cabinet are afraid of him.
And what of the no confidence motion by the opposition? Sarah says,
I haven't seen any motion of that sort yet. And until I see, until I see it, I don't know what it's calling for, why it's calling for it, I can't speak to it.
Sarah Flood-Bobra was the last of three pretenders to the UWP's throne to have lost to Alan Chasney prior to the June 2016 general election.
Are among vulnerable to natural, the SIDS are more vulnerable. I have an obligation to the people of my country. And so I must find new, while natural disasters continue to threaten, we will play our part in adaptation of our economy, which was on a projected course north above ground and extensive damage. But we, as SIDS, are continually, similarly, it is within this context, by signing on to the regional agreement on the access to information, how much better we could have done. Countries like my own have a chart.
The thing is being manipulated as it has been before. Alan is already manipulated with Ezekiel and Guy Joseph. These are the people that are dangerous in this government. And they are the ones manipulating all this, the democratic system at all levels in St. Lucia. So, and for me, these are the people that put the dagger, the Judases that put the dagger in his back. I would have if I was Stephenson King, I have nothing to do. These people cannot be around me because you can't trust these people.
Contesting any leadership position, or is your confidence in Mr. Chasney to lead you all to the next election, part of the next election?
Well, I don't expect any contest for the leadership. That will not happen. I am quite contented with my position in the party, and I will just be retaining that position.
And you see the leadership, as in contesting leadership for Mr. Shasta, you think anyone will contest that leadership?
Well, I don't know of anyone with that intention, and I do not anticipate it. I tend not to overburden myself with too much. I mean.
So here we are today, and as the person who is now leading the charge to having a motion of no confidence tabled in the House, I love the idea. I think it's a good tactical move, and I think it would actually give one opportunity to St. Lucians in the sense that it gives them an opportunity to agitate towards their district representatives or the MPs to try to get them to basically speak about the obvious, but at the same time, towing the party line with this government there, whether it is just for political motive or personal motive or profit motive, doesn't give that much hope that any of these guys will grow the testicular fortitude to do anything. So can you explain your rationale with regard to the motion of no confidence?
Well, you see, Chris, a motion of no confidence is a democratic instrument, is a democratic tool that you use when you're in a position to bring out the faults or the bad administration of the government. You see, because the way the parliament is set up, the leader of government business controls the majority. Mm-hmm. Now, they can bring any motion they want at whatever time they want. What we want to do is that we want to put all our issues with the government in one motion to be debated in the Parliament of St. Lucia for the public to hear. And in that case, our issues are with the Prime Minister as head of the government.
Okay.
The no confidence motion is in the Prime Minister.
Okay.
Now, we want to be able to bring all these issues, nothing personal. You see, I want to make it clear that there's nothing personal in these things. This is not a matter about you like this man or that man like you. And that's not about it, It's about policy and it's about direction of the country.
So
too many times, so when you hear words like destructive and laughable and this kind of foolishness, these are personal things. We talk about policy, and that's why today I insisted in dealing with the policy and the documentation. So we're not going to tell people we like the Prime Minister or we don't like him. We're going to say that we do not agree with the policies of the Prime Minister and the direction which he's taking the country. And we want all the MPs to say they agree with that.
So then, that said, people, especially those, I think, it was a professional class who have voted for this government, and that's their right, no problem. I think a lot of people have switched off and they just say, it's politics as usual, it's the same tit for tat. Once the surrogates of the government can come up with anything to just, whether it's true or not, it's like Nancy, just say anything whether it's true or not.
Like Halu said something about the airport. That is really, really fascinating. What Nancy said about the airport is fascinating, It's fast. And I bought the Slasper report. Mm. It's a pity we don't have time.
Let me just show it to people.
The Slasper report.
I'll take some photos of it and stuff. You see which camera, this one, right, and so on.
Yeah.
But then my question is now.
I know. What she said, 99 million?
90, yeah. But Nancy, anyway, I don't even want to. Here's my question for you. What differentiates, I know for myself, but that could just be my biased opinion, what differentiates Shastney as a leader from not just Kenny Anthony, but Compton, Vaughan, Lewis, and other leaders before him in terms of warranting a no confidence motion?
First of all, we think that the Prime Minister, in such a short period of time, has gone beyond the boundaries of any other Prime Minister.
How?
Good question. The Prime Minister said that the opposition lost its right to speak after June the 6th. You know how dangerous that statement is?
True.
The opposition, people who represent 37,000 people in the country, lost their right to speak. The Prime Minister presided, or is presiding, over a St. Jude's hospital that is closed with bush over it. And people are in a stadium that everyone who knows and everyone who should know, and everyone who stays there has said that the people should come out of the St. Jude's.
Okay.
Medical people, architect says that there is one wing at the St. Jude Hospital, one wing, that can take everybody out of the stadium and put them in the hospital in better conditions. One wing. The Prime Minister has refused to do it. And people are at the George Orlum Stadium. And instead of that, they prefer to attack the doctors and attack the opposition instead of that. The Prime Minister is taking $13 million of taxpayers' money to build a road for private investor.
That's DSH.
DSH. Build a whole road for private investor. He is not alternating it, or he's not giving them some space. Build an entire road on taxpayers' money for an investor. Right? So, I mean, it is the Prime Minister chose to go to Taiwan to borrow nearly $500 million to build an airport when everyone, including his good friend in Jamaica, had just signed. And again, these are not things I'm saying. I want it to be disputed.
So there's a level of unprecedented, by your measure, unprecedented bad governance.
Unprecedented and nothing personal. I want to repeat it's personal.
So in terms of leadership style, do you see any similarities between his leadership style and Kenny Anthony?
Well, it's two different men.
So let's take Sir John then, or anybody else. Do you? Okay, let me give you a different question. Do you understand what he's doing?
No. Baffles me. Because I mean, listen to me. I've tried to conjure in my mind. Why would a Prime Minister stop a process to build an airport? A process where the whole world is going towards it. Stop it. Where the people who are conducting the process invite you to manage the new process for them and you say no. And you're going to borrow money to build it? And under the guise that you're going to get the airport departure tax, and that was the same instrument that you used to build it without all the issues, without all the problems.
So then, okay, let me ask a different question then. You all debate in the House. He comes up with his counter arguments. You all talk about things that the average person wouldn't necessarily get, like sinking fund and so on and so forth. They look now, they tell you they have $15 million in the sinking fund, and then...
How much is in the logbook for gas?
Well, they haven't disclosed.
Exactly, okay, go ahead.
Right, so is it, people will chalk it up to just two different, if you want to call it, management styles. Right now, if the labor policies, the former administration had, and that's coming back to the economics, if the labor administration policies had been kept for the most part, so you have your administrative building, you go through the range, the CIP is maintained at the same level and so on. Right now, where do you think this country would be?
Okay. First of all, I think the hospitals would have been open.
Okay.
And that's fundamental, the issue of healthcare is a fundamental problem, Listen to me, a constituent of mine came from our former social conference. You didn't even congratulate me.
I'm not congratulating you.
You are something else, man.
I'm not congratulating.
That's how you're guys. I forget that.
No. I'm telling you, when it comes to conventions...
let's finish that.
Okay.
All right. Now, the guy went, the lady came from there, and she went to Victoria Hospital. And God must bless these nurses and these doctors. When she left there, 7 o'clock in the morning, There are people in the hospital there on wheelchairs, come for emergency. I mean, these nurses and these doctors, they have a special place in heaven for them.
So wait, as you say that, I have a clip.
And talking about Victoria.
Yeah, I have a clip because I have heard of people, the emergency room at Victoria is actually being used
to house
also
patients.
as a ward. People are sleeping on the floors with IVs in their arm, elderly people and so on. And they have big signs all over the place telling people don't take any pictures. I have a clip I just want to run. If I have it queued, the George Orlum Stadium. I ran it yesterday and a lot of people didn't see it. We couldn't figure out whether it was an internal issue, whether it was flow and so on. Can I just run that clip, please?
The hospital must be taken off from this stadium in the shortest possible time.
I feel bad that I will be compared to them in the delivery of St. Jude because it looked like it's going to take us 4 years to do so.
Yeah, we are targeting 18 months, but that would be 18 months from commencement date of construction for St. Jude, which we are hoping will be in the coming months, way before this year end, that construction should begin down there.
The leader of the nation also spoke of proposals to utilize the partially completed buildings at the original St. Jude Hospital to house one or more medical schools, which would share the site with the proposed new building that would house the operations of the long-displaced hospital. These medical schools, he says, would create demand for new residential developments.
We're also in discussions with 2 different groups about putting a medical university in the South. So one of them is to look at the existing building of St. Jude and to convert that. And now if you build the new wing of the hospital, you have the opportunity of having both a hospital and also a medical university on the same campus. And that's going to drive the need for residential space as well. So we are moving in earnest.
The hospital must be taken off from this stadium in the shortest possible time.
I feel bad that I will be compared to them in the delivery of St. Jude because it looked like it's going to take us 4 years to do so.
Yeah, we are targeting 18 months, but that would be 18 months from commencement date of construction for St. Jude, which we are hoping will be in the coming months, way before this year end, that construction should begin down there.
The leader of the nation also spoke of proposals to utilize the partially completed buildings at the original St. Jude Hospital to house one or more medical schools, which would share the site with the proposed new building that would house the operations of the long-displaced hospital. These medical schools, he says, would create demand for new residential developments.
We're also in discussions with 2 different groups about putting a medical university in the South. So one of them is to look at the existing building of St. Jude and to convert that. And now if you build the new wing of the hospital, you have the opportunity of having both a hospital and also a medical university on the same campus. And that's going to drive the need for residential space as well. So we are moving.
So folks, that is the laundry facilities without running water, pipes going straight into the washing machines. The same people that are handling the dirty clothes, some blood-soaked and infected clothing, with all kinds of stuff on it, have to be also doing the new or clean laundry, which contaminates the containers that Terry Valse and Guy Joseph and Jack Rennie and them are all involved in, have holes in them, and they were supposed to be storing medication for patients. They are supposed to be storing. This is only a couple of days old, those photos. And what is even worse is that the doctors are concerned that they themselves are getting infected with diseases and vectors and so on. And because, I mean, you see rats eating medication and so on. And then now they're handling that and then going into the hospital, potentially making people sicker than when they even came in. So as you are seeing that now, you consider all of these, I see it as unprecedented, but also unnecessary.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm making. And that is why it's difficult to tell people about economic growth. But you see, Chris, I didn't like the way you did too against vote of confidence, because you see talking to a politician. I want to get back to the IMF report, because that's
fair enough.
Look at the IMF report. Now, page 14. Now, St. Lucia is part of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union.
Right.
That is why we are saved, because the framers of that thing, Mr. Theophilus. No Theophilus?
Which George Theophilus?
You don't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
No.
A fellow called Theophilus, a fellow called Jacobs. Jacobs, these guys are the framers. They started this central bank, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. So you never knew Theophilus?
I never knew George Theophilus.
Yeah, man.
See, that's good.
But that's where Lon went to school in St. Kitts.
St. Lucian history.
Yeah. I mean, they have a lot of people, and then these people can be called on for advice, Theophilus is there. What they did, so you finish Central Bank was only Dwight Venner. They don't know in anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Theophilus, Jacobs, And I think they were the first. I'm not sure that anybody even. I think Theophilus and Jacob were the first guys that central bank.
Okay.
I may be wrong, but I'm sure Theophilus is there.
Okay.
Good. The framers, they framed it, and they created something called, my mic is okay?
Yeah.
And they gave something called a monetary council.
Right.
That put the grip on politicians.
Okay.
Right? And that is why the EC dollar has remained such a powerful dollar, because politicians can't get their hand in it.
How so?
Because every EC dollar is backed by an equivalent US dollar, nearly 90 cents or something US dollar. So every dollar you see here is backed by a US dollar.
Explain that to people.
Okay. What it means is that the prime ministers can print money like they did in Barbados.
Ah, okay.
They can print money. To print money, you must have a backing.
Right.
And that is why our foreign reserves have remained as high as they have. Because these fellas, Theophilus and these guys before him, kept the grip on politicians. And first, like John Compton, they agreed to that discipline.
So
now compare that to Alan Chastanet, who wants to close down the people who control the airline traffic. You ever hear him say that?
Yes, yes.
Oh, these fellas, too much control, too much regulation, anti-regulation, right? Compton and these guys, these forefathers, they accepted the regulation of the central bank.
So then how does that relate to this?
Right. So the central bank is saying, listen to me, the way you're going, you all should keep your ECCU, we in the ECCU should aim for a debt reduction strategy so our debt to GDP ratio would not be more than 60%.
Okay,
right?
acceptable.
Acceptable. For us to be in a good space.
Right.
To help you, we're going to rebase it.
So rebasing, and tell me if I have it right, rebasing is where they come up where they, let's say you want to round off to the nearest figure, and they would say, let's say you are 10, or you're 10.3. Instead of rebasing it to 10, let's say to 10, they would go to 9. In other words...
No, it's more than that. No, it's
more than that? Okay, then.
More than that. What do they include things they never included before?
Oh, so
they make the picture bigger, right?
Okay,
more comprehensive.
right.
So whereas the volume remains the same, but the ratio is less.
Okay.
Good? They're rebasing. So that puts in a better position.
So then now...
When they rebased it, St. Lucia was... I know it is something... St. Lucia was in 2016... 68.5%. We were near there.
Okay, Economic and Social
Review, page 58.
Page 58.
Yes.
Let's show that to the people, folks. Let's go to screen and show people when they rebased public debts in
2017. St. Lucia was at 68.5%. Well on our way.
So before the rebasing, the government of which you were the deputy leader, deputy prime minister.
We give it to them at 69.5%. Look at that.
At 69.5%.
Yes.
Okay, so 2016, when you left office,
69% with a rebasing.
the debt with the rebasing
Yes,
was
69.5%. Yes.
Okay.
And here it says the rate of debt accumulation picked up in 2017.
Okay, let me see if I can get that.
The other page. So they're borrowing more. And you haven't even increased. You haven't even increased. Right? You see it picked up in 2017. Picked up.
Let's show that on screen. Picked up on 2017, marginally above the average of 3.3%
Over the
preceding.
picked up, it's getting higher.
Okay.
Now it was at 68%, 69% when they got it.
Right.
9 percentage points away from what we had to do.
Right.
So if we had continued the fiscal trajectory that we were on, we'd have achieved these limits in 2017.
Okay, so where are we at now?
Now, where we at now, not what I see.
Not what you
don't
see.
feel like a politician, Gasser.
Okay.
The IMF, the authorities' position, the authorities mean St. Lucia.
Right.
The authorities recognizing that reaching the ECCU debt target requires corrective measures which they were considering. Now, if you go back to the table of debt to GDP ratio, you will see at some point that if they continue in that trajectory, by 2023, we will be at 83%.
With rebased?
Even if it's rebased.
We'll be at 83%.
So when you get into government, that's what you're going to get.
So if the Labour Party or the UWP came into power in what, 2020?
By 20, it will be at 83%.
Right? So whichever person comes in is going to basically be...
Unless it's reversed.
It's going to be in crap.
Unless it's reversed.
It's going to be in crap.
Listen carefully now. The authorities were contemplating revenue-enhancing measures, including streamlining exemptions to VAT.
Explain that.
Means that they will remove from the VAT exempt
list. Okay. So more groceries will be higher. Wow. Okay.
And that's, and again, Chris, I want to make it sure. It's not, I'm not the one saying that, you know.
But that's what that's the information that they
gave the IMF. 20 us talking crap about the opposition is destructive and things. What we saying to the government is face the reality. That's all we're saying.
But they're the ones giving them that information.
Listen, including Sri Lanka, so here goes 5 to stay alive.
So they
because you have to streamline exemptions of that.
So then they have less things. Okay.
All right.
I understand.
Now, a property tax reform. Here goes the problem of no
property tax. So they're reversing on the property tax.
And that's what the authorities say. The authorities' position.
Read it again.
Page 14.
Page 14
of the IMF report. Go and check it out.
Right.
Good. A new residency program. And that's what they got blacklisted for, eh?
Right.
They saying that, eh?
Right.
You read the OECD report about the residency?
Right.
That's what they say they'll do. Yeah? Some of these measures would be implemented after a new system of targeted social assistance is in place by year end.
Mm-hmm.
So what they tell the IMF, they know these things will affect poor people. So they're going to have a targeted social assistance in place. So what they're going to do is that they're going to try to target social assistance instead of having a free for all.
So, but here's that. I saw when this government was in government before, and you had Hurricane Thomas relief supplies being stored under politicians' wife, family, whatever you want to call it, homes. I saw in places like Soufre, you had assistance being given along party lines. So you'd have one person that was in yellow with cases of water.
So what do you want to see that? And that's the hurricane.
Right.
They want to make it complete. Now, the Minister of Social Infrastructure, they had a seminar, and we sent a representative.
Right.
Because I don't really believe we want to to fail increase. We want to to prosper.
Fair enough.
Right? So we sent a representative to target social assistance. But I want to go further. On spending, the authorities confirmed that continued wage moderation in the public sector is essential.
I know what that means to me, but what does that mean to you? What does that suggest?
That you have to limit increases in the public sector.
Tell that to NTN and GIS, because every week they're hiring somebody.
It's not. Now, listen to it. They were considering savings from privatizations.
Hold on.
Page 14.
Page 14.
Yes.
Okay.
Outsourcing of the largest public hospital.
Right. I've read that. I remember that.
Closure of some state-owned enterprises.
Marketing
board,
fish marketing.
Tourism board. Modernization of government services and pension reform for public employees not covered by the National Insurance Corporation.
So that's why they're forcing all these PSs to go and leave and tell them they want to give them gratuity. They want them to take bonds as opposed to their gratuities.
Right. Okay. Now, views differed on the size of the required fiscal adjustment. That means they did not agree. When the IMF said, what you must do to cross that adjustment, they say, no, they're not agreeing. They're not agreeing.
Okay.
So what they're going to do, so look out. What will happen now is that the government will buy time till the next election.
How?
Buy time. Instead of making the adjustments they have to make, instead of having the guts and the fortitude of the Labour Party, to listen to me, we have to implement that. You'll benefit. Instead of having the guts of Grenada. Because you must understand, St. Lucia's and Vincent are the only countries in the OECS that haven't gone to the IMF.
Okay.
St. Vincent for reasons that we can't say loud.
Fair enough.
And St. Lucia because of fiscal management.
Okay. So you all avoided the IMF.
Yeah. No. But they say that they said they need 1.5% of GDP based on more optimistic view of interest rates and loan equation. So what they're saying is that they need a 1.5% adjustment. You understand?
Okay.
On the IMF. But the IMF is saying you need more. Now, here's what the thing.
And don't worry, folks, we are going to open for calls.
On fiscal reforms, they confirmed their commitment to recently updated Public Finance Management Action Plan, including new legislation on procurement.
Now that one you have to explain for everybody.
Good. What they want to do, you may recall that, again, to exercise fiscal discipline on the Minister of Finance, and not Alan Chastney, because I think it's not personal.
The Minister of Finance.
They want to have a Public Finance Management Act and a procurement bill, so direct awards will stop.
Wait, you telling me that
we've passed that procurement bill? It hasn't. They refuse to send it to it.
Wait, no. You passed that already?
Yes.
When? Hold on. You passed something.
There is a procurement bill that has been sent to. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize.
So that said, right now,
what
all these 30 direct awards in a day.
That $30 million if I want to build a road for you will never happen.
So, to give you an example, Fresh Start, that road in Miku.
It wouldn't happen like that.
It wouldn't happen.
Or the new procurement act.
The
act was there.
So they just will not, they will not.
I don't know.
So then, question.
And then they promised IMF that they will do it.
So, let me get that in layman's terms.
Now, the Public Finance Management Act ties the Minister of Finance, ties his hand to reaching certain places in debt, in fiscal management.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it, that is why when it came to Parliament, we asked for a parliamentary committee. Some of it we think is unfair. But it really ties his hand.
So, that said, right now, all of these direct awards that flying out the window.
On the procurement bill, that can't happen.
And these are some of the commitments
that they make to create the necessary fiscal adjustment.
So then, for me, and I'm just saying as I'm hearing it, in order for this country to meet the requirements of the IMF, you're looking at public servants' wage modulation. You're looking at privatization of everything left, right, and center.
I want you to read it.
I'll read it again. I've read it before, but right, okay. So on spending, authorities confirmed that the continued wage moderation in the public sector is essential. They were considering savings from privatizations, outsourcing of the largest public hospital, closure of some state-owned enterprises, modernization of government services, and pension reform for public employees not covered by the National Insurance Corporation. Again, page 14. So that says that the average St. Lucian is going to get even more licks than they get right now. Folks, the lines, I want to make sure to open the lines before you curse me for not taking calls. 4560306. And let's see if we can get in calls, obviously, for the leader of the opposition.
And there's another problem now.
Mm-hmm.
The insolvency in the banks.
Now
that's something we have to face.
That's because of the mortgages and the hypothecary
non-performing loans
and the hypothecary obligation.
The non-performing loans. That's something we have to face, and that's a hot button issue.
So then, how does he, for example, if
he's committed to change it?
But but then that's a lot of people out of their homes too.
Yes, and that is, and people are not being told these things.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Christopher. And good afternoon to Mr. Pierre.
Good afternoon. Go ahead. We can barely hear you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask Mr. Pierre, in the event he become Prime Minister, how long it will take his government to finish St. Jude's?
If I become Prime Minister, we'll start work on St. Jude, continue work on St. Jude immediately.
But why is that difficult? Do you need, as somebody that does accounts and people's taxes and all of that, do you need to stop a project in order to audit it?
But, Chris, we've said to the Prime Minister, if anyone is guilty of fraud, arrest them. Haven't you heard me say that?
Yeah.
Several times, including my parliamentary reps.
But so the project never needed to be stopped in order to audit it. And I understand from the former Minister for Health, Alvina Reynolds, that an audit was actually done by the Labour Party, reaching from 2014 all the way back to the 1980s. Fair enough.
And there is a building that adequately you can use. One building.
Good afternoon. This is Politically Insane. Hello.
Good afternoon, Christopher.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, sir.
Look, Christopher, I heard the leader of the opposition explaining what GDP growth means. And I thought that he did it brilliantly. And this is what St. Lucians need to know, need to understand. When we hear politicians, when we hear governments talking about, the growth was 5%, was 3%, it will increase to 6% next year, and the year after that 6.5%. Christopher, the thing is, when governments talk about GDP or economic growth of a country, that growth must be felt by the people of the country, especially the rank and file of the country. Rank and file meaning the ordinary person. So, for example, even if it doesn't mean direct money coming directly into your pocket, whether through wages, salaries, etc., at least your children going to school will get laptops, they will get bursaries, we'll have repairs to our infrastructure, including roads, bridges, etc., or we'll have new infrastructure, including new roads, etc., to help farmers, to help motorists, etc., for the taxes that they pay. We'll have improved access to our health institutions. We'll have better health institutions and not the kind of nightmare that we're having right now in terms of our health services. That is what the ordinary person wants to know. That is what the ordinary person needs to understand in terms of GDP growth. How does it benefit us? We have 3%, 3.4%, but how does that benefit us? You understand? We need to know that, because when we hear GDP growth, what we're thinking of is the $24 million given to Sanders. We're thinking of the $10 million that was given to CHTTI, Guy Joseph's wife.
So the FFF growth,
$32.4 million that was given to Lockerbie.
The Friends, Family and Foreigners growth.
Benefits of that 3.0% economic growth.
Well,
I'm not the ordinary man and woman on the street. The ordinary people, we're catching our royals.
Caller, I do believe, in fairness to the surrogates, I believe Russell and Rick and Mayers, Frank Myers and them, I do believe they have gotten their own personal economic growth.
I can hardly hear you, Christopher.
Sorry,
so I listen. So I listen. I'm off it.
Yeah.
And you see this, I just wanted to get tricky. I read something about the airports.
Right.
I mean, it hurt my heart. I mean, because
from Nancy.
Who? The total revenue from the airports, right? Gross revenue was $24 million in 2014.
Right.
The gross margin after expenses is $10 million, the gross margin.
Okay.
Right? Now, out of that, the SLASPA debt in 2014 was $71 million.
71, 159.
No. And you add into that $500 million.
$405 million.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And you say that the Labour Party, what was she we do? The country would lose how much money? 99. I mean, this thing is...
it works, I tell you. You just say anything and you repeat it and it works.
But Chris, these things are available. The documents are available. Anything I've said this afternoon, I want anybody.
Good afternoon. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Christopher.
Good afternoon.
You're a bit low, but I'll try to say my little piece there. Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Right. I listened to you very carefully, future Prime Minister of St. Lucia. And
Well, I'll put it in layman's terms, you know, the way some of us will understand it. What you say there is the chicken and egg. Now, the government have 5 eggs. And all I hear Nico McDonald is saying, and all the hack is saying, that we will have more tourist boats coming in. We will have bigger boats. We will have more overstay tourists. But that 5 eggs they have there, they're talking about the 6 eggs. Now that 6 eggs, so if in case that egg break, so they will still remain with 5 eggs, but they already talk so much about the 6 eggs. So they count the eggs before it lays.
Caller, yes. I will tell you how much I agree with you so much, because I watch Aussie Boy and them read achievements, and it is the first time I've ever heard achievements including things that you intend to do. So, for example, they said that they are finishing the the polyclinic in Dennery, and yet it has stopped. And then they say they spent $10 million on the schools, on school repairs, but yet they're also telling you the $10 million that they intend to spend on school repairs is coming from the loan that they're trying to get from the Taiwanese now.
Yeah. And the other thing is, Chris, I heard Rick say something and he put it right. You see, the way Prime Minister is talking, he don't listen. So if you have a Prime Minister doesn't hear, doesn't listen, you see, and he's the Prime Minister of this country. So that means we as black people in this country, we cannot rule our own destiny. Is the Prime Minister have to do everything for us because he doesn't listen from nobody, from the opposition, from nobody. And he's the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. So that means I cannot control my own destiny.
That's what it feels like to me, caller.
I could hardly hear you, Christopher, so I'll have to stop.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
So you see, Chris, I just want, before we end, I know we have a short, I have to go myself. I just want you to think what I'm saying. Now, people say, what you will do if it is you. Here's what, if I had a product that I would do. I would go to business. The country has experienced 3% economic growth according to the statistics. That's a fact. We've been fortunate. We've got it all done. We had a good season because the economy of the U.S. was doing well. Hurricane had damaged some countries. We're doing well. But listen to me. There are some risks that we have to be careful about. We have not been able to open a hospital. We don't have the money. That's what I would say. We couldn't pay our bonds because we didn't have the money. Right? We are increasing our debt. We need to make the necessary sacrifices now so that we can improve our position in the future.
But then I come back to the same point.
That is what Grenada did.
But then I come back to the same point. If this government did not screw around with CIP, the range, Sabwisha, canals, don't you think that we would have been in a position?
Well, exactly. I'm just making a point to you even more forcefully. I would say that here's what I would have done, because if I had that opportunity, I would have stopped these things. Our CIP would not be under so much pressure. Because you see, when the CIP was conceived, I want to make it clear also, the opposition were involved,
That's the point that's not very much made.
No, the opposition, the CIP didn't come in about consultation. Listen to me. I said to the Prime Minister, I can assist you with the risking. Because the risking, there are some issues. You see, what the United Party like to believe is because they're going to victimize you and me, that they can do whatever they want in the outside world. But the outside world it's a cruel outside world, And that is why, when you heard them say that the opposition was laughing, both Ernest and myself, we said, we think that the OECD and in some situations are taking advantage on small states. You didn't hear us say so?
Yes.
We said so. But you won't hear them say we said so.
Well, Myers didn't hear that.
No, I'm surprised.
Let's see. Good afternoon.
Hey, Christopher Hunt.
Yes.
I'm Philip J. Pierre.
Yes, sir.
I am proposing that, and the IMF and everybody have said that CIP money is supposed to be used for the people.
No. The IMF didn't say so. The IMF said it should be used to pay down debts.
They recommended you to pay down the public debts.
Unlike Dominica and St. Kitts and all these people that are using the CIP money for the people.
Must be fair, caller. Let's be fair. You know, and that is why some people think St. Lucia entered CIP later. St. Kitts and Dominica were ahead of us. St. Kitts and CIP started in St. Kitts.
However,
right.
What I'm saying is, with the level of poverty and low income housing in St. Lucia, I am saying that under a Philip J. Pierre, I personally would like to see CIP money used to build houses for low-income people.
And that's a very good point, Colin.
And will you say to me on Choice TV today, politically incorrect, that under Philip J. Pierre, as Prime Minister, you will use the CIP monies to build houses for people?
Caller, under Philip J. Pierre as Prime Minister, we will do the best we can under circumstances, the CIP money, including building houses.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good one. Good luck.
Let me explain something to you.
We'll take one more call. I know we've gone way over time, but it's an important show.
About the CIP, now, the housing. You heard what happened in Leclerc, right?
Yes.
No. Up to now, the government hasn't said what's going to happen there, you know.
And where they're going?
Nobody knows. I mean, this is
So wait. You as leader of the opposition, you don't know what's supposed to go in that spot?
No, they said, I mean, these things, there's housing.
Here's a funny thing.
It's another issue we must look into
So
closely.
let me ask you a question, because I know we ran out of time. Double standards wise, do you think the things that have happened under this government would have ever been tolerated? Forget Kenny Anthony of the Labour Party. If you were Prime Minister, and what has happened with Ubaldas, what has happened with the not going to the House of Parliament to secure the loans or to go through the process to deal with the loans for Fresh Start and so on, the travel, the running up the credit cards, the running private businesses inside government properties, premises, and the conflicts of interest and so on, the direct awards. Do you think if you were Prime Minister now, do you think your government would have survived any of that?
Surely not.
What do you think would have happened?
What would have happened is that all the social partners would have risen up in
So social partners, you mean non-governmental organizations, chamber, all of the unions, all of them would have risen up already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's enough. I mean, what sense does it make? I mean, Chris, think about it. St. Jude Hospital remains closed with bush growing into one. Bush. And people are saying, architects are telling you, there is one building you can use, one building.
To
solve the whole. You haven't done it? and then people just stay and they oh, you all do the same, you all finish it. I mean,
and it works. Good afternoon, your final caller.
Yes, good afternoon, Christopher, and good afternoon to the Prime Minister in waiting.
Good afternoon.
Prime Minister in waiting, there are two things I would like you on becoming the St. Lucia Prime Minister whenever. The reopen of Radio St. Lucia and the Dennery Sports Complex, which has been stopped for 2 years, which was supposed to be named the Remy Lesmore Sports Complex. I hold you to these two things, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister in waiting. Thank you.
Let me tell you something. I'm glad you mentioned that, and that's going to be a discussion. You heard the excuse for Lockerbie. You heard somebody say that Lockerbie was given a contract to build, what she said? To build everywhere and just
build shovel ready and study ready.
Now, caller, give an example. Lockerbie was paid, according to the invoice, which hasn't been denied, $82,000 US.
That's one of them.
That's one of them, right? That could have fixed the stands on the Marshall grounds.
That one invoice.
And now, here's what we had in plan. The plan was to upgrade all the sporting facilities. Sean Edwards, the then minister, was sent to Trinidad to look at how they've upgraded all the sporting facilities. So here's what a Labour Party government would do. Instead of taking $13 million to build dreams and pay a man consultancy, we'd have spoken to Crafton, we would have spoken to the architects, guys like Toyot, very good, guys like Neville Skid, guys like
Inter-Island Architects.
What's the
Mark
Hennicat? And he said, listen to me, build a concept for us on all the existing playing fields. So every playing field would have had a pavilion, changing rooms for the athletes, because
that had started already.
Oh, we've done enough. We've done enough. You understand? We married go, but they had a big story and they want this and that. Now, what would have happened? We would have the money, and let us say that Lockerbie has a good plan. The money we pay in Lockerbie would not have been used because it had been used to pay to probably increase the staff, 1 or 2 people in the architect section of the miniature planning to draw the plans. It have used to use the expertise of Hennicat and Skeet and these guys to build, because St. Lucian Architects built the St. Kitts Stadium. True. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am.
St. Lucian Architects built the Dan Stanley Stadium. So what does Lockerbie know that St. Lucians don't know?
He knows how. No. And I'm going to stand up for Lockerbie on this final point. Lockerbie said that he can turn the Dahem Mall into a sports arena without changing the structure. So that means he will leave the columns and the beams rusted as they are. And when you go in and play football, you'll have to dally cow and dribble. but we pain. So you will not be able to say it, but I'll say it. I think people like Lockerbie, just like Ojo, just like DSH, everything, I think these are all means to a private end, in the sense that I believe that these are ways for people who are in government to make money on the side, and the state is being used like an ATM to fund and finance people's private ambitions.
And you see, Chris, and these I've said so. Now, that would be the plan. So every facility would have been well manicured. The ground, if you're a cricket, Crafton would have dealt with the cricket.
Fair enough.
There would have been changing rooms for men and women in every facility. So using $13 million to bring to do shovel ready
and study ready.
What again?
Study ready and shovel ready. He created the terms.
Exactly. Yeah. It would not be necessary, because that money would have been used, would have spread throughout the area. So the Labour Party government, in terms of sports, would have done 2 things. One, maintain the facilities to always be player ready.
No, you come with your own.
I have my own thing now. Player ready. So we cut the grass.
Right, you cut the grass. In front of the grass and behind the grass.
Secondly, we would have built changing rooms and pavilions in all of them. Like Viewfort, we started already, particularly changing rooms for the athletes and the cricketers.
And also the playing field lighting program.
That's what we would have done. And not give, and then let's suppose you had the whole program. If you just took out Lockerbie's fees, we'd have money for these things. And that's the difference, Chris.
Yep.
And that's the difference that we will do as a government when we get into power. We will use the state's money in a way that will benefit the states, and not too many individuals.
So then in your closing, right now, can you, because that's my major concern, and I've said before, I don't know at the rate that we go in, there'll be enough of a country to be able to be rescued. I believe that the Labour Party has the same problem that Obama has, that the same people that create the mess, they're going to come and tell you you ain't cleaning it up fast enough, like happened in 2011, 2012. And I think right now, what you would get would be an untenable situation if you were to get into office.
I'm not as pessimistic as you.
Fair enough.
I have faith in solutions. I think you can talk to them. I think we're going to be very open and transparent. As I said in my convention speech, we're going to get involved in consultation, in talking to people. We'll call people together. We'll call the trade unions. We'll call the faith-based organizations. We'll call the NGOs. Look at the National Trust. The National Trust can do a lot for the country, you know. Can do a lot. The National Trust, because, and we're back to tourism, environmental tourism. National Trust can help. But what we done? Because we disagree, we cut the subvention. Climate change. There are millions of dollars available for climate change. But if you cut the subvention of your premier climate change defender in the country, the National Trust, how is it people to look at you?
Fair enough.
So I know it's going to be tough, but we're going to be talking to people. We're not going to run down reporters. We're going to try to explain to them. We're not going to have press conferences where it's a matter of you talk down. We're going to, and when the press in my government, when the press criticizes, we'll try to explain. Because there always is an explanation, and we'll try to get them the facts. Like if I was in government and I was calling a press conference on the IMF report, I would have given the whole IMF report. I wouldn't call the opposition destructive and laughable, because the facts are there. And I want anybody to challenge me, and let's have a debate on the IMF report. Both the macro and the
micro
and the qualitative analysis.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming on.